This presentation is an overview of the potential impact of transmissible diseases on human development. Without preventative measures such as immunizations, a pregnant woman can become infected with disease-causing organisms that not only impact her own health, but potentially that of her unborn child. Infection of the fetus can lead to a range of issues, including stillbirth. Did you know? Infections are thought to be responsible for up to 50% of stillbirths in some parts of the world. The placenta helps protect the fetus from infection. Its outermost layer serves as a physical barrier due to the fusion of cells supported by a dense actin network. In addition, those cells secrete antimicrobial compounds, and there is an abundance of leukocytes ready for a swift immune response if needed. Recently, biologists described another mechanism of protection involving a retrovirus-derived gene that is expressed in the placenta and thought to outcompete certain kinds of viruses for binding to cell surface receptors that would otherwise lead to infection. Despite the protective nature of the placenta, diseases can still be transmitted. The most common mechanism is known as vertical transmission. Another common mechanism is ascending transmission, as often occurs with STDs. Other ways in which an infectious disease can be transmitted include penetration of the pathogen through the abdominal cavity. Did you know? A mother with the common cold or the flu can still safely breastfeed, which is important to pass along factors that help boost a newborn's immune system. When a pregnant woman presents with symptoms, there are different methods to diagnose a fetal infection, such as a simple ultrasound that allows for visualization of abnormalities associated with certain pathogens. There has been renewed interest in studying transmissible diseases. Even developmental biologists have begun to investigate the utility of their respective model systems. This image shows a zebrafish embryo infected with bacteria related to the strain causing tuberculosis. The bacteria express a red fluorescent protein so that researchers could visualize the impact of phage therapy. Now let's take a closer look at a few specific examples of transmissible diseases that can disrupt fetal development. One example of a bacterial infection is listeriosis. This bacterium is intracellular, organizing the actin filaments of its host to help propel itself from one cell to the next. The most common way to become infected is by eating contaminated food, including unpasteurized dairy products such as cheese. There can be a variety of effects on fetal development. Fortunately, antibiotics are available to help treat listeriosis. A viral infection can also disrupt fetal development. In fact, it is cytomegalovirus, or CMV, that is the most common infectious cause of birth defects in the U.S. CMV is in the same family of viruses as herpes, and it has one of the largest genomes among all viruses that can infect a human. Just like the common cold, it is typically spread through body fluids. A pregnant woman can vertically transmit the virus to the fetus, and in fact, about 1 in every 200 newborns is infected with CMV. Of those, 1 in every 5 has a birth defect, most commonly hearing loss. Unfortunately, there is no treatment, only symptom management. Now let's take a look at an example of a parasitic infection, specifically that of the protozoan causing toxoplasmosis. This is a unicellular protozoan that can become dormant, forming a cyst that tends to localize to the muscle tissue of its host. One way to become infected is by accidentally ingesting oocysts that occur in the feces of cats, an important host in its life cycle. A pregnant woman can vertically transmit the parasite to the fetus. Without treatment, a newborn can have long-term issues, including learning disabilities. Fortunately, there is a cocktail of medications that can be used to minimize the risk. There are few fungal infections that pose a threat to fetal development simply because there are few species known to colonize the human body. However, yeast infections are one exception. While some species of yeast are completely harmless, other species can cause issues when present on the skin or mucous membranes, including those of the female reproductive tract. The reproductive tract is particularly susceptible to yeast infections due to changes in pH that are associated with elevated levels of estrogen. A yeast infection can cause issues for the fetus. If the infection occurs early in pregnancy, there is even risk of disrupted placental development. Therefore, a pregnant woman should receive medical treatment in the form of antifungal medications. In summary, transmissible diseases can have severe consequences for fetal development. This is particularly true if they are transmitted early in pregnancy when many vital organs are already being formed. Recently, developmental biologists have applied their own model systems to gain better insight into mechanisms of transmission and to test new treatments that might help reduce the impact of infections that affect millions of people worldwide.